You thought you could win the contract and forget me, Emeka. Now back for your money.
My neighbor gave me food after I won a 50 million naira contract. And now I am barking like a dog whenever I see money.
My name is Emeka, and I am writing this from a place where shadows grow longer than the trees. They say that when God wants to bless you, He opens the windows of heaven. But they forget to tell you that when those windows open, every demon in your neighborhood is standing outside with a ladder, waiting to climb in. I was a struggling engineer in Ogba, Lagos. For 10 years, my hands were permanently stained with black oil and grease. I lived in a room and parlor, face me, I face you apartment. My neighbor in the room directly opposite mine was Mama Chinedu.
Yes,
To everyone in the compound, she was a saint.
Thank you, Mama.
She was a widow who sold roasted corn and pear by the roadside. She was the one who would give you an extra ear of corn if she knew you hadn't eaten. We called her Mama Peace. On a Tuesday that started like any other, I received an email. It was from a multinational logistics firm.
N35 million?
I had bid
Yes,
for a
this is
contract
real,
to
I'm rich.
maintain their
I can't
entire
believe it.
fleet of
Woo!
200 trucks. I thought I stood no chance, but there it was, contract awarded. The mobilization fee hit my account 2 hours later, 35 million naira. I didn't just scream, I fell to the ground. I rolled in the dust of our shared compound, shouting, Ebenezer, God has done it. The neighbors came out. Mama Chinedu was the first to reach me. She pulled me up, brushing the dirt off my shoulders with her callous hands. Emeka, my son, she said, her eyes moist with what I thought were tears of joy. The God of the poor has finally answered. You will not eat alone tonight. I was so blinded by my own light that I didn't see the way her grip tightened on my arm or the way she glanced at my phone screen when the bank alert glowed. That evening, the smell of oha soup filled the compound. It was an aroma so potent it felt like it was pulling you by the nose. Mama Chinedu knocked on my door at 8 p.m. She was carrying a tray with a steaming bowl of pounded yam and soup so rich with dried fish and komo that it looks like a king's feast. I spent my last savings to buy this meat, Emeka, I said, placing the tray on my small table. You are like a son to me. When you move to your mansion in Lekki, don't forget the old woman who fed you. I felt a surge of guilt. I promised her everything, a new shop, a car, a house in the village. I washed my hands and dug in. The soup was divine, but there was a strange, metallic aftertaste, like copper or blood. I ignored it. I was a big boy now. I ate until the bowl was scraped clean. As I finished, Mama Chinedu did something strange. She didn't take the plate immediately. She reached into her wrapper and pulled out a small dried bone. It looked like the jawbone of a small animal. She dipped it into the remaining gravy on my plate, whispered something I couldn't hear, and then put the bone back into her wrapper. Sleep well, Milonia, she said, her voice sounding deeper, almost gravelly. From tomorrow, your life will never be the same. I woke up feeling heavy. My throat felt tight, as if I had swallowed a ball of wool. I had a meeting with the board of directors at 10 a.m. to sign the final documents. I dressed in my best suit, feeling like a king. I stopped at a nearby ATM to withdraw some cash for transport. As the machine whirred and spat out a crisp stack of 500 naira notes, something happened. The moment I touched the money, a fire ignited in my chest. My lungs felt like they were bursting. My neck began to twitch uncontrollably. I tried to say thank you to the security guard holding the door open, but my tongue felt too large for my mouth. I opened my mouth to speak, but what came out was a sound that froze the blood of everyone in the queue. Woof, woof, woof. The security guard jumped back, reaching for his baton. Oga, are you okay? I clapped my hands over my mouth, my eyes bulging in horror. I tried to apologize. I'm sorry, I have a cold, I wanted to say. But as I looked at the money in my hand, the urge returned. My knees hit the pavement, my head tilted back. Woof, 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 grrr. I dropped the money and ran. The moment the money was out of my hands, the urge vanished. I stood at the bus stop, panting, my heart hammering. It's a hallucination, I told myself. Maybe I worked too hard. Maybe the soup was too spicy. I reached the headquarters of the logistics company. I was sweating through my suit. I sat in the plush waiting room trying to steady my breathing. The secretary smiled at me. "Mr. Emeka, the board is ready for you." I walked in. 12 men and women in dark suits looked at me. The CEO, a stern man with graying hair, pushed a leather-bound folder toward me. "Mr. Emeka, we were impressed with your proposal. Here is the contract. Once you sign, we will hand over the check for the balance of 15 million naira. He pulled a thick bundle of 1,000 naira notes from an envelope, a goodwill gesture for the initial logistics. The sight of the money triggered the beast. My vision turned red. The smell of the ink on the note hit me like a physical blow. I felt my nails digging into the mahogany table, my spine curved. Before the CEO could finish his sentence, I had leapt onto the table. I didn't sign the contract. I snatched the bundle of money with my teeth. I began to shred the notes, growling, saliva dripping onto the CEO's expensive tie. "Security!" the CEO screamed, falling back in his chair. "There is a mad dog in the boardroom." I was dragged out of the building, backing and snapping at the air. As they threw me onto the sidewalk, I saw my reflection in the glass door. My eyes weren't human. They were yellow. They were the eyes of a predator. I crawled back to my apartment, disgraced and broken. I couldn't look at my phone. The digital bank balance made me growl. I couldn't look at my wallet. I was starving because I couldn't pay for food without barking at the vendor. That night, I heard a sound from the other side of the thin wall. Mama Chinedu was talking to someone. "He is guarding it well," she said, followed by a dry, hacking laugh. "The spirit of the old guard is in him now. Every time he sees money, he remembers he is a dog. My son, Chinedu, are the alarms hitting your phone?" A male voice replied from his speakerphone. "Yes, Mama. I don't know where this money is coming from, but every hour, 500,000 naira drops into my account. I just bought a Lexus." "Enjoy it, my son," Mama Chinedu whispered. "Emeka is the one doing the work. He is the dog guarding your wealth. As long as he barks, you will shine." I realized then the soup, the jawbone, the special salt. She had swapped our destinies. I was the spirit dog protecting her son's stolen wealth. The more I suffered, the richer he became. The next few days were a descent into hell. I became a spectacle in the compound. The neighbors who once congratulated me now threw stones at my door. "Emeka has turned into a beast," they shouted. Mama Chinedu would come to my window every morning pretending to be sad. She would throw a kiss of raw meat onto my floor. "Eat, my son. It's better than nothing." I would look at the meat with disgust, but the hunger was so great that my body would take over. I would find myself on all fours, tearing at the raw flesh, while she watched with a smile that was no longer human. I tried to go to a church, but the moment I saw the offering basket, I attacked the ushers. I tried to go to a hospital, but the sight of the billing counter made me bite the nurse. I was a man trapped in a canine curse, and the world was closing in. I knew I had to find a way out. I waited until Mama Chinedu went to the market. I broke into her room. The smell hit me first. The smell of the east wing, of rotten eggs and burnt hair. Under her bed, I found a clay pot filled with black liquid. Floating in the liquid were my passport photograph and a tail, a real severed dog's tail. I reached for the photograph, but a hand grabbed my neck. It was the mute maid who worked for the landlord. She had been watching me. She couldn't speak, but she pointed to the pot, then to a small bottle of palm oil on the shelf. She made a gesture of pouring. I understood. I grabbed the oil and poured it into the black liquid. The pot began to hiss. The liquid turned from black to a bright, angry red. Suddenly, I felt a sharp pain in my chest. I fell to the floor, coughing. I coughed until I vomited a piece of dark, grisly meat, the same meat I had eaten in the oha soup weeks ago. It was still undigested. It was still alive, twitching on the floor. I heard the gate up. Mama Chinedu was back. I stepped out of her room, standing tall. For the first time in weeks, my throat didn't feel tight. I looked at the 1,000 naira note lying on the floor. I didn't back. I picked it up. Mama Agnes saw me. She dropped her basket of corn. Her face turned from shock to pure, unadulterated evil. "You think you are free?" she hissed. "The contract is signed in blood, Emeka." She began to chant, her body vibrating. But as she opened her mouth to call the spirits, she froze. She began to cough. She coughed so hard she fell to her knees. And then it happened. Her neck began to twitch. Her eyes turned yellow. She looked at the gold earrings she was wearing, bought with her son's stolen money. And she let out a sound that shook the entire compound. Woof! 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 The ritual had backfired. Because I had defiled the pot with the oil of the earth, the curse had returned to the source. The police arrived an hour later, called by the neighbors who thought a wild animal had entered the compound. They found Mama Chinedu on all fours, shredding her own bed sheets, barking at her bank passbook. In the city, her son Chinedu was arrested the same day. He had crashed his new Lexus into a police station. When the officers tried to help him, he bit the sergeant's ear off and began to bark at the bail money on the desk. I lost the contract. The company sued me for damages. I lost the 35 million naira. It vanished from my account as quickly as it had arrived. I am back to being a struggling engineer with black oil on my hands. But every morning, I wake up and I speak. I say good morning to the sun. I say thank you to the bread seller. The lesson: never eat from a hand that hasn't celebrated your struggle. Jealousy is a poison that doesn't just kill, it transforms. If you see a neighbor who is too happy about your success, watch their shadow. Because in this world, some people don't want to be rich, they just want you to be a dog. What happened next? Mama Chinedu was taken to the village. They say she still barks every time the church bell rings because the bell sounds like the clinking of coins. As for me, I am still an engineer, but now I carry my own food and I never ever wear gold.